Tired of serving up the same old tasty goodies for your family? Step up your grill game with new seasonings from Coy's Southern Eats. Based off famous Southern recipes, our seasonings will add what's been missing to your family's feast. Add it to steak, chicken, shrimp, you name it. Serving up these fixings is going to make you the hero at home. So head on over to CoysSouthernEats.com and order yours today. Come get you some.
And everybody, welcome to another edition of the Razorback Diamond Report with Dudley Dawson here on Hogville.net YouTube Live. I want to thank our sponsor, Coy's Southern Eats. Please come rediscover the magic of Coy's. Come get you some. Dudley, that's a little bit of a new wrinkle for us. Got a little bit new thing going there, and so kind of excited to have them on board, and welcome.
Absolutely. You always love great sponsors, and that's a good one right there. Excited to have them on board.
Most definitely. Also, be sure to come check us out each week. And here in the very near future, we'll also have a few giveaways to throw out to fans as well. And so, without any further ado, let's talk about that Razorback football game yesterday. That was a very good experience for a lot of young guys yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in Newport earlier in the day for Charles Valentine's Memorial, and then got to the stadium midway through the third quarter. And the one thing I definitely learned yesterday was that they do not want to let you into the stadium in the third quarter. They want you going the other way. They want you going out. So I had to circle for about 30 minutes before I finally got an understanding cop who looked the other way while I hopped the curb. Yeah, and got into the parking lot, got in to watch the last quarter and a half of the game. But got up today and watched the game, and Chuck and the guys did a great job describing it to me on radio. But I wanted to get a look at it, and I think from what I've seen, there were plenty of positives, and just like Coach Pittman and the other coaches were pointing out, you got to get some more push in that run game. So. Yes, Western Carolina came with a heavy box, but you should be able to get more yards than they had yesterday on the ground.
And also want to throw it out there, too, that if you guys want to put your comments into that box over here, type those in, send them over to us. We'll be more than happy to answer those, put those on the screen here. So without any further ado, let's take a look at listen to what Sam's opening remarks were yesterday at the press conference.
Completions, so he's got to do or 5. He's what was he 18 23? Yeah, he's got to
with KJ. Sorry, y'all.
And only 3 touchdowns and ran for 1. No, I thought he played well. He we're not asking him at this point to run the ball as much. We didn't want to run him today much, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, I thought he was really poised. We made a lot about the new, everybody did, including myself. I wondered about it, new coordinator, new coach, all that kind of stuff. And
so that's one of the takeaways there from Sam about KJ. And we had kind of talked about this a little bit beforehand, that was going to be something that we thought we might see, the first couple of games of the season, making sure that KJ's upright. He's not getting hit very much, if any at all, and also staying relatively healthy as best he can getting through these first couple of games.
Yeah, it took one hit there, but the dude just bounced off of him, there in the first half. He did his first 12 passes. Saw one guy on social media said he didn't think KJ was throwing the ball very well. I know he wasn't throwing it down the field too much, but 12 for 12 is 12 for 12. I mean,
exactly.
Two after that, but and one of the things that Kerwin Bell, Western Carolina's coach, talked about was how he was more impressed with KJ in person than he had been on film in terms of throwing the football. But with Arkansas, we know they're going to get that run game going. They got too good a run game coordinators and offensive line and backs that it won't get going. There's a few things there that they'll have to shore up a little bit, including getting Brady Latham back. I mean, obviously, people kind of discounted that. He started a lot of games for 36 games, I think, in a row. His streak ended yesterday when I started. But they'll get that line in great shape and get it going. But, got to see all the new additions to the receiving core. And, I think Isaac Tesla and Andrew Armstrong. And obviously Isaiah may not be new to the program, but he was new to the field. Certainly got more snaps yesterday than he did last season. And he's going to be a great weapon, not only as a wide receiver, but also as a return specialist. It was clear that he electrified the crowd. When the ball was in the air, they were anticipating something. And I know he had a 12-yard punt return, had a really good kick return. I thought that when they were describing it on the radio and I was driving, that I was going to get my bold prediction that he was going to take it all the way back. Again, but obviously, I think he got past the 50, but didn't used a block in the back to get it, I guess. And certainly I'm excited with him. And it's going to be interesting. Bryce Stevens, had been that guy who did return punts and didn't see him, get in the game yesterday. And so, that'll be something to keep an eye on.
Yep. And so here's what Sam had to say about that running game yesterday. And Dudley, after this, I want to get your thoughts on what Kerwin Bell had to say as far as kind of matching what Sam's talking about with the run game yesterday.
We didn't get great movement on our inside runs, but we couldn't get to their safeties, which was probably the reason why we're making a lot of yards throwing the football. I do think Dan probably could have thrown it quite a bit more. We also have work to do in the run game, but I think you'll see a little bit of combination of both.
So, and Sam talked about the offensive line being able to contain their safeties, and that has to do also with Brady Latham missing. You don't have that guard tackle combo that's able to get to that second and third level. It's one of the things that happens when you do a little bit of mix and match, leading up to that week. What did Kerwin Bell have to say as far as the run game goes?
Well, he was happy because that's an area that they weren't as good in last year. He knew what Arkansas had been really good at. He knew about the backfield, including the quarterback being 247, the starting tailback being 242, and bringing a guy off the bench to 253. So he made a concerted effort to put people in the box. So, they loaded up that box, made it more difficult for Arkansas to run. They still should have gotten more yards and gotten more push. And I think that, having that first game and really a first extended playing time for a lot of those guys, they always say, whether it's true or not, the teams make the most improvement from the first game to the second. I think Kent State is a team, I'm going to say, similar to Western Carolina, probably a little bit better overall because they're a little higher competition. But 56-6 loss to UCF the other night, Thursday night. UCF scored 14 points, 2 touchdowns every quarter, 14 points in every quarter. I think Arkansas will definitely, lean on the run a little more heavily in this game because you're continuing to expand your offense, see what you do really good at, see what your new offensive line can do. I suspect we're going to see a similar score to what we saw yesterday, but a lot better rushing performance.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've seen a lot of folks comment on Hogville on Facebook, also on Twitter, also on the website, that they were a little worried about the run game, but at the same time, they felt more at ease because they know that they've got a Kent State coming up next. You don't have a BYU, you don't have an Alabama or an Auburn. You've got another team that's coming up with. I'm sorry, UCF. I don't know, UCF played Kent State. Sorry, but with Kent State coming in next week, that's one of those things that you can still kind of find your way through, but still get that W at the same time.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things, and I'm not that worried about the running game. The thing that maybe I concentrated on most while driving and listening and then watched the game today was the fact that there were so many high snaps. That's got to get taken care of. You obviously got a new center this year, and the amount of high snaps that were there, that just throws off everything. Sometimes it turns out to be a good play when Dudley Dawson can't rip the ball out of KJ's hands and KJ walks in for a touchdown. But you've got to get to where the snaps is not something you worry about, and I'm sure they'll get that fixed this week. And probably a little first game excitement. I don't want to say jitters because the guy's been there forever, but first game excitement, and there'll be a lot of good film work this week to look at.
One of the things that I've noticed, and Otis and I talked about, was the size of the Arkansas wide receivers versus the size of the Western Carolina defensive backs. That's something that's going to play out for the rest of the season in Arkansas's favor because you're going to be going up against SEC cornerbacks. Yes, don't get me wrong, but the size, you can't teach size, and Arkansas's got the size, and they've also got the hands because they had one drop pass yesterday.
Yeah, and I, obviously got a chance to see how tall that receiving core is all around. Tesla, is a freak athlete that was hidden at Hillsdale College, and certainly I think he made the right decision in moving up to a higher level, and I think he's going to have a big season. Andrew Armstrong, you certainly made some cases. Yeah, I think one of the important things is they're going to be able to get some jump balls. Now, I would hope that they wouldn't have to attempt to do that too much. You don't want this to be a basketball game. You want to put it where they can, get yards after catch and all that. And I think they'll continue to get toward that's a better thing. I do think that I was telling the wife Petra when I got home last night. It's amazing. 56-10 was not good enough for a lot of people. I'm of the mind that it was just a few years ago. Coach B almost lost a game in Little Rock. Coach Petrino lost a game in Little Rock. They've lost games up here that have been embarrassing, North Texas and some others that, it's not going to be perfect from the word go. Yes, there are a lot of things they can clean up. If they don't clean them up in the next couple of games, then LSU, who will all get a chance to see play Florida State tonight, we'll take them to the woodshed in Texas A&M May too. But, I think that you're going to work on what your efficiencies are. Kerwin Bell made another I thought, very cognizant point in that he said there's nothing like live reps. You've been out to practice. You know that this thudding stuff where they just bump up against each other is not real football. They don't do a lot of tackling at all in any college in the spring or the preseason camp now. It always shows that first game, and that's not just on defense. That's also on offense, because if you're just thudding up against your defensive linemen and all that, you're just not getting real football. So I think that they played real football yesterday, that people were tackled to the ground, people were bum rushed and knocked down, and there was physicality there. I think we'll see that take a step forward in game 2 against Kent State, which as a new head coach, Kenny Burns, he he's going to get that program turned around. But that was not the best showing ever that they had against UCF. And John Reese Plummer is a really elusive and a good quarterback. It should have been a little bit better than 56-6.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to the game this coming out. This Saturday, 3 p.m. Razorback Reynolds Stadium. Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium. Sorry, I called a war earlier today, and boy, I tell you, I'm pretty sure we had a spike of people that were about ready to come out because they ran out of water at halftime. They ran out of Gatorades. It was I may not ran out of Gatorade, but I know they ran out of water for sure. I know that it wasn't a full stadium. I get it. Folks have they're a little contrite with the fact that it's down there, but it is what it is. And that's just one of the things that we're just going to have. We just have to keep doing, and we'll have to see what that happens in the future. But one of the things that I want.
I've grown up in Newport. I had great memories of War Memorial Stadium. It certainly was more of an event back then. You didn't have the TV and so many different ways to watch the game and see things as you did. You didn't have that back then as you do now. It was more of an event. But yeah, I really think that there's certainly things that will be talked about and have been talked about by fans and all that. You can't be running out of water. You knew it was going to be a hot day. You moved the dang game because you were talking about
because of that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. John D. James, our photographer, and I passed the buses going home last night, so I know they got here in good shape instead of at 1 or 2 a.m. as they would have. But the thing about it, as much as I enjoy the games down there, as much as I think that, as a youngster who grew up going to games there, that it would be great if they could continue to play there. I don't think they're going to play there after the Arkansas State game in 2025. I think that'll be a 77-year going away present because of the different things that are factoring in. And that's not just the difficulty that some of the things that happened at War Memorial Stadium yesterday. It's the affinities that you have up here in the dollar, which it's my understanding you can make if you have 67,000 in Fayetteville and 55,000 in War Memorial, you would make $5 million more in. And you might say, well, the football program doesn't need any more money. But the football program doesn't just fund itself. It funds it in basketball, pretty much baseball to a certain extent. Yeah, fund the other 16 sports. And so that comes into being the stadium is so much bigger. If Arkansas continues to improve, when you would think that they would do that, then, bean counters, businessmen, they'll make that decision and all the games will be up here. In my love for all the games that I saw at War Memorial, I'll just have to put it in the rearview mirror. Business is business. And if anybody thinks college football is just a sport, I don't know where you get it.
Sadly mistaken. They're sadly mistaken. I was talking with Clay Henry yesterday up in the box. And one of the things that I'd asked him is Arkansas played Oklahoma State for 20 straight years. I said, what? And I asked him, I said, what was the difference and why would they play Oklahoma State in Little Rock versus in Fayetteville? He said, well, there's a couple of reasons. He said, one, War Memorial had 55,000 seats. Arkansas had 39,000. You didn't have that second level.
Excellent.
The second major factor was the War Memorial had lights. You could play the game at night. At Fayetteville, they didn't. Then they would bring in rented lights if it was a TV game, but they would always. That's why they played more down in War Memorial, was because of the amenities that they had then versus what they had in Fayetteville now. Now Arkansas, the folks in Fayetteville have flipped that script, and I think that's why you're seeing this being pulled more away.
And here's just another thing. Certainly the facilities play into this. We did their interview yesterday with Kerwin Bell out in the field. It's my understanding that the interview room, which was small, in any way for the opposing coaches, is no longer a something that they'll be doing down there. I think most of those interviews will be done on the field for different games. It's a great site for high school football. I've attended several games there. I'll be there, in November and December, I'm sure, for state title games. But it's just not the way it used to be. Things change. We all have to get used to that. And again, if if I'm wrong, that's great. But I really think that 2025 game with Arkansas State will, first of all, be a tremendous atmosphere. I doubt there's 40,000 there during that. And I think that will be the last show of Arkansas there.
Yep. And so I want to talk a little bit about the defense. They had 4 interceptions yesterday, kind of going away from the stadium talk for a little bit. One of the things that I noticed about the defensive secondary was the amount of chunk plays that they gave up last year. And it seemed like every time you turned around, there was a 20 to 25 yard play given up through the air somewhere. Yesterday, they had 2. And if I'm not mistaken, and that set up scores. Other than that, the defense was able to make contact with the receiver whenever they made contact with the ball. So not only were they able to make contact with the receiver, they were taking him down. They were making contact and tackling. That's a huge step for the secondary that we didn't see so much last year.
Yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction. They certainly have a different mentality on defense. As I've said all along, I think Barry Odom was a great head coach, great defensive coach, but whatever was just not working in the way it needed to, and that's, I'm glad he got a head coaching job, and I'm glad that Coach Pittman brought in 2 more aggressive guys on that defensive staff, and we'll see them, expand the repertoire with the guys that they have on defense yesterday. I know that there were certainly too many penalties on defense. You certainly don't want to see those. They'll get that cleaned up, I'm sure. But you're going to see a situation where they're going to give up some chunk plays, but it's not going to be as many as it has been. And one of the reasons will be because they'll be getting to the quarterback so much more. They did not show anything and will not show anything these next couple of weeks either to LSU. LSU and Texas A&M can't, really know what they're doing, even though these guys have been in the SEC and fellow coaches know a little bit about what they want to do. But I think the mentality of being more aggressive is going to help. I think two sacks yesterday, maybe.
Yes.
Tackles for lost yardage. I'm sure we'll see that escalate as they start to do more things that they don't want on tape till week 4.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was Kiwi Rose and Torian Carter that got the sacks yesterday. One of the things that I also noticed in postgame yesterday was when Jaden Johnson was talking about the defensive backfield room and how that mentality has changed. Let me play that video for you real quick.
Just sat me down, talked to me about just how I got to be consistent. And so that was something that I worked on during the offseason, and I got a lot stronger, faster. And just our group, our DB group, it's happiness, peaceful, and we like to have fun. So that helped a lot.
Yeah, Jaden.
Go ahead.
Jaden, I think, would tell you that last year wasn't the year he wanted to have, but he certainly has come out in both the spring and preseason camp and shown that he's focused and in a better place mindset. Went out and made a big hit that forced a fumble yesterday, and is someone I think that's really in tune with what he's with the season he's going to have. I think he likes this defense. They've certainly got more options back there in the secondary. People are going to be pushing each other. Even Brad Spence got a big interception yesterday, but part of that happened because the coverage of the secondary was so good on that play that the kid had to dump down. I forget which of the 3 quarterbacks it was at that time, maybe in the last one they brought in, Western Carolina. But I think that there are, and I was telling a radio station this last week when I looked at Arkansas's roster, 1 to 44, 1 to 22, I thought they could compete with a lot of SEC teams. 1 to 44, it wasn't where it needed to be. Now I think that they're in a situation where they've got like 60 guys that could start and make an impact. And certainly you want to have 85, but I think they've got 60 guys on offense and defense right around in there that can win you ball games. That you don't have to worry about, don't have to be coached as hard because they know what they're doing and they have innate talent to be where they're supposed to be. And I think that's a nice step forward with what they're doing in recruiting. Obviously, and we talked about this a little bit last week, and I'm sure Otis mentioned it, they continue to get high-level commitments for 2026, 2025, and have, I guess, 19 for 2024. Just a few spots left there. The recruiting is going well. The program is trending up. I think they'll go into that fourth game with LSU 3-0, and then I think we'll learn a lot about Arkansas from that game. And I think they're learning a lot about themselves from yesterday, and they will in these next two games. Watched BYU last night as well, Arkansas's third opponent, and I think that's a good football program, but they're not going to scare anybody. I think they're a very solid team, but they're not as good as they were last year for sure. And Arkansas took care of them last year at BYU, but the team that I have to believe is not as good as this year's season.
Yep, and I know that folks always talk about the improvement from a game 1 to a game 2, and that's where you want to see the largest improvement. I personally think that the largest improvement needs to be from BYU to LSU. Those are the two biggest. That's the biggest improvement that they need to see as a team. When you were talking about the folks that are coming in and the depth, one of the things that Otis Kirk had put on a show just a little bit ago, and I wanted to relay this too to folks, because I know that you get different folks that watch different shows, and I want to get that out too. And he was telling us about it a little bit earlier. Is that the kicking game next year for Arkansas, if Cam Little decides to leave, is going to still be in good hands, because Vito Cavaruso has transferred back to Arkansas. He went to Wisconsin, he came back, and now you look at the kicking game for Arkansas, and it's been a weapon here the last 4 or 5 years. That's going to continue for a couple of years after Cam Little leaves.
Yeah, and you would hope that Cam would stick around for another year, and I think that will probably happen. But I do think that when it is time for him to leave campus, he's going to be one of these guys that does get drafted. They don't draft a lot of kickers these days. Jake Moody from Michigan, who's has won the San Francisco kicking job and is hurt. Don't know if he'll be able to play in their opener or not. But Cam did a really good job yesterday. The special teams, for the most part, other than the block in the back on the return, the kickoff return, I think did a really good job. Thankfully, and like Florida, they only had one number at a time out there on the field instead of having threes as Florida did. And all that was, they do that the dress rehearsal, and I guess they did it Friday this year to kind of get some of this stuff out of the way. But it's when you have duplicate numbers, and now they've got duplicate numbers that are 0, 5, 3. It's numbers that everybody seems to want. I think it's just one of those things that you almost have to have a number organizer coach. And
oh my gosh, yeah,
that's what all these offensive consultants and graduate assistants play into it as well. Gosh, I think it cost Florida 2 touchdowns the other night, and Florida needed every point they were getting, because Utah was a better team, even with their 2 backup quarterbacks over there, and quarterback Jesus standing on the sidelines, and Cameron Rising. I'm sure he's going to get going, in this next week or two, and Utah's going to be pretty good in a conference that is it the Pac-2 now, maybe?
Yeah, it is the Pac-2, Oregon State and Washington State. That's about it. It's looking slim pickings for them. One of the things that I heard, the reason why the ACC took 3 teams and SMU being one of those teams, and honestly, it was more of a CYA thing for the ACC, because if the ACC dropped below 15 teams, ESPN could come back in. They could renegotiate a deal. As long as they stay at 15 or above, then then ESPN, doesn't have to come back in and renegotiate that deal. So SMU, go ahead.
Getting part of that Dallas market. I mean, let's be honest. That's one of the biggest college football markets there can be, and not only are they adding SMU to that conference, but they're also talking about playing neutral site games in Dallas or Arlington for games in that conference. Now, we have a lot of experience with neutral site games. There's a lot of positivity there. There's some negatives to it. I mean, you can see when you have too many, when you don't have enough home games, is what I'm saying. It's going to be interesting. And for those three teams, it's unreal to me. It's for those three teams are not taking a full share.
I know, 30%.
Yeah, SMU's like not getting anything for 10 years.
They don't get. Yeah, they just said, hey, we're just going to go along for the ride. Just go ahead and pick me, and I'll be your guy.
Yeah, and we'll have some boosters, throw stuff in here. I've always liked going to SMU. Everybody knows I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan and St. Louis Cardinal. That's why I got the Jimmy Buffett, late great Jimmy Buffett shirt on today.
God rest his soul.
I in the big scheme of things, I think that's better for them than bringing in Stanford in terms of television and all that. I don't blame them at all. This college relocation and conference relocation, however you want to put it, it's nuts, man. I mean, think about this. 2 months ago, nobody was going anywhere, and everybody's going somewhere. It was just Oklahoma and Texas were going to be the two new additions in 2024, and now just think people are all over. Like Rutgers and Northwestern playing on CBS at noon today in the Big Ten Game of the Week, on Sunday. Which, congratulations to Rutgers too. They have had a tough time since they went to the Big Ten. Now, I mean, you can't wait for that big Rutgers UCLA game, I guess, in football. Get down the line here.
In Piscataway, New Jersey, here it comes. That's going to be that's really going to be. Is what it is at this point.
How about the Big 12 coming here in a couple of weeks with BYU? Didn't think I'd ever say that.
Because they've been independent for so long, and now you're really pigeonholing a team like Notre Dame, and you're forcing the issue on them, saying at this point you're going to have to eventually get off the pot, for lack of a better term. You're going to have to make a decision and figure out, are you going to go to the ACC, which they basically have completely shifted all of their sports other than football over to, or do you flirt with the Big Ten because of all the rivalry games that they have with the geographical, which doesn't really make any sense anymore because geography is out the window, like you mentioned.
As long as NBC continues to give them tons of money, they can probably survive football-wise by doing that. And that's a great football program. They get a lot of hatred because they've won so much over the years, and they'll be glad to tell you about it. Notre Dame, Texas, are I guess the two teams that get the most attention or hate from people who just, for no other reason than they get so much attention. And New England Patriots, we're that way with Tom Brady, when he was there, and just winning breeds contempt. But as long as NBC keeps throwing money in there, and they're allowed to go to the college football playoff, which now has 12 teams. I guess we'll have 12 teams. And dollars run the world. We all know that.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely does. Well, I'm going to get you out of here on this note really quick, Dudley. Couple of score predictions I'm going to get from you. First off, the Arkansas-Kent State game. What is your final score prediction for Saturday?
I'm going to go with 52-14, similar to what I think I picked last week. About one thing that I'm going to say is I think Arkansas will rush for 200 yards. I think they will focus on that. And I think that after watching John Reese Plumlee and others run all over Kent State last week, I think this will be a encouraging sign that will be focused on going into the second game. So, 52-14, and I think they'll have about 200 yards rushing. And I think at least 4 of those running backs will get plenty of carries.
So, and lastly, we got the NFL coming right around the corner, and I'm not sure if you and I are going to be able to talk before the Dallas game comes up next weekend. Score prediction for Dallas.
Well, Terrence Steele, they got him signed today to a contract. I feel like that Dallas always does pretty good in the regular season. Since this is a regular season game, I'll predict the victory. Hit me up in the playoffs and we'll see. But I really believe that this is a key year for Dak Prescott, a key year for Mike McCarthy. There's nothing better to get you going than being on the hot seat. Now Mike McCarthy has no excuses. Him calling plays, and I know he had Kellen Moore call some of his previous years, some of those fourth down plays that I think were ridiculous. But I think there's going to be an urgency. I'm not predicting that they'll win the East. I think Philadelphia's still the best team there. But I do think they'll be in it in the postseason, and you go from there. How good is Tony Pollard going to hold up? They're going to have Leonard Fournette or anybody else in the backfield. But, the Giants are going to be a pretty tough team, and it's on the road. Dallas is just like those two teams I mentioned. That America's team moniker draws hatred, and I'm sure that there'll be an equal number of fans, Dallas Cowboy fans, rooting for them next week, and anti-Dallas Cowboy fans rooting for whoever they play. In this case, it's going to be the Giants. I'm looking forward to watching them. Detroit, I think, is becoming a better team, and I don't think they'll beat Kansas City. But I think that's going to be an entertaining game.
Yeah, it is. I want to see if the name escapes me off the top of my head. Quarterback for the Lions. Jared Goff. I want to see if he can start to turn the corner a little bit for that franchise. I thought you start to kind of see that towards the last half of the season last year, starting to improve a little bit more. I want to see if they're able to carry that into this season or not. So I don't know. We'll just see how that goes. And anytime you have Patrick,
just glad the games are here. I may have stayed up too. I drove back a little. I may have stayed up late last night watching too many replays and scoreboard shows and all that. But I just wanted to take it all in. Hey, and I know there's a lot of people who don't like Coach Prime, but I do.
That was great. Yes,
back in the day, and I love it when college football gets shook up a little bit, and it got shook up last.
He called some folks out yesterday, and
there's no truth to the thing that Chad Morris was calling plays yesterday. It was Kendall Browse, and they still put up a lot of points. I don't think you can put that one on him, but I think the situation's better all around here now than it has been in the past in terms of development, game management, and all that. We'll see how this season plays out, and October's going to be brutal. Better get some stuff done in September, and it looks like they're off to a nice start.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely is. Well, Dudley, I will see you on Saturday, and everybody be sure to check us out again next Sunday at 4:30 for the Razorback Diamond Report.
By then, I will have been probably saw the first scrimmage. Arkansas starts baseball practice on Friday. I think we'll have a scrimmage, so we'll have plenty to talk about with that as well as football, who's been practicing.
Yeah, I can't wait to bring that back into the fold. It's been kind of a heavy first game for us, and then we'll be able to kind of get the segments a little bit more evened out too. But with this first game, I wanted to make it a little bit heavy on that one. So once all these teams, the softball team, the baseball team, start to scrimmage, we'll also bring you more coverage with that too. So, well, for myself, Jason Pattyson, and for Dudley Dawson, I want to thank you guys for jumping on with the Razorback Diamond Report with Dudley Dawson.